I obviously agree with you about AI art, but like what pisses you off so much
Oh,
about it?
yeah, I'm kind of in the midst of like
Uh-huh.
this is like my Jordan Peterson like
Mhm.
inappropriate like emotional meltdown that I'm going through on Twitter right now. Um, and you can probably see the like difference between my like Twitter persona and my like actual speaking
Mhm.
speaking voice. Um, but I don't know. I like I'm a very like passionate person, and I'm very like passionate about like art and like the human imagination,
Mhm.
and to me like art is like someone asked me what my like definition of art is, and I was replying to multiple things at the same time, so I didn't get around to replying to them. But I said I would have said is like human imaginative production, you know,
Mhm.
and to me this is like the most sacred thing there is. Um, so I kind of like I'm kind of like horrified on like the deepest possible level when other people don't uh have that same um kind of like they don't have that same like value, you know.
Uh-huh.
I'm not saying that that's like a good way to be, because I don't think it kind of is a bit like dysfunctional at times, I think.
Yeah.
um but I've always been like this. And I remember once when I was in like a college philosophy class, some girl just did this kind of like, I think we were arguing about like eliminative materialism or something like that.
Mhm.
And we ended up having like this argument about art, and she was like, art doesn't matter, something like that. And I was like, I mean, this is like just to give you an idea of like how like messed up I am. I was like literally like shaking with rage.
Yeah.
Like this is when I was like 18. Like that's how like inappropriate it was. The level of like emotional response.
Well,
And I haven't really changed. Like I still feel that way about it,
right.
like, and it's
And
I haven't
we're around the same age, right? I'm 32. You're
I'm
around my age.
30.
Okay,
Yeah,
so yeah,
yeah.
so it's been a 12 years. You haven't wavered
Yeah.
on that. Which in your 20s as a man, like you can really go through a roller coaster of like takes, but
Oh,
that's a
I have.
solidified one. Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah, but that one
Hmm.
is, I mean, and I've got this like astrology friend called Owen, and I can't even remember what sign he was talking about, but he was talking about a certain sign that is like when someone is rude to that sign, they're offended not because someone's been rude to them, but they're offended that the person has degraded themselves by stooping to the level of rudeness.
Right.
And I don't think I'm a Leo, and I don't think he was describing a Leo, but that really like resonated with me
It's your
because
moon sign, dude. It's your moon sign.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, like because when like that's like the source of the horror, right? Is like
Hmm.
that someone else like wouldn't like have that kind of interest, that in like inherent interest in what other people create, you know is
Hmm.
like kind of like intensely heartbreaking to me, you know
Yeah.
so yeah.
Right. And now like for me, I am not a visual art guy, but I know what AI art means. I know what that means. What's the benefit? That no one's ever told me like what's the benefit. People can do those portraits. Like
Yeah.
people can do that by hand and actually add that human element to it. And now I'm more of an audio kind of speech kind of person, like where I see the art in that a lot more than I do visual art. However, the reason I wanted to even I saw you talking about, I thought it was interesting because today we're talking about Peter Gabriel, right? And like that he was essentially, I think, the medium, like the actual in the middle, the median of like artificial and a real musician. Like it's
Yeah.
exactly in the middle, but like you really can't. And I struggle with that because like I used to use a lot of stuff with drum machines, Sai as well, like a lot of stuff with drum machines, and like the gayest thing you can do is press quantize. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
quantization for people who don't know, that's just basically like take all
Snap
the
it into
soul
a
out
grid.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah, snap it into a grid. There's a little like a thing where it's like basically a metronome. If you hear the deet deet it's never going to deviate from that metronome, and that's AI to me. Like is quantizing art, and I'm like, no, you don't do that because I'm sorry, the human element is great. When you quantize music, you take away the groove. When you quantize art, you take away the soul from it.
You know, like what I really like with drum machines is like something like 1999 by Prince, where it's like full of these like slightly like lopsided like really primitive drum machine rhythms, and they sound like they've been like fed through like a bass amp or something like that. They're just like super kind of dull, and they're like slightly offbeat in this kind of like weird disjointed way, and there's some kind of tension there, or relationship between the like stiltedness of the electronic drum rhythm and then the offbeatness. It creates like a really interesting effect, and that's like what I think is interesting. I'm not actually a Luddite. Like I'm not opposed to technology
totally,
like in general. Like I like synthesizers, I like digital music and things like that, and I think that somebody could use like an AI tool in an artistic creative
100%.
way. Like I have no problem with that whatsoever. And that's like,
do you guys remember that story, the Nirvana AI song that they did a couple years back? You remember that?
Yeah.
But I remember it was different because I listened to it and I was like, okay, this is kind of whack, but it's also not bad. Like I thought that it was completely done by AI. Like, every like little waveform was done by AI. It comes out and then you read the article on it. It's like, oh yeah, like we wrote it with AI and then hired a band to play it. I'm like, wait, okay, like what the what I mean? It's like that's not how you sold it,
Sorry, not to like get into another rant or anything, but that's
please.
The basic pattern of all of this stuff is there is always like some mystified human element, and that's what I find pernicious about it, because it's like there's a literally alienating just inherent quality to it, right? Where AI assumes the role of this kind of like neutral authority, where we've like implicitly accepted the premise that like a Nirvana song, there exists some like objective form of a Nirvana song that an AI has like access to.
Yeah, data points of a Nirvana song.
And so when that AI produces the Nirvana song, that's like a kind of objectively a Nirvana song in the way that like a rock is objectively a rock, right? And that is like that's like what I object to, like fundamentally.
And I get thinking about like, because we do these deep dives of like pretty, we stick to the like
normies,
Beatles,
normie
Zeppelin.
artists.
And one thing about
normie stuff,
like Beatles, Zeppelin, Nirvana, like that tier of stuff. One thing that I find about that, it's kind of like the band that they're the center of the black hole, and the songs that they create revolve around that, where they're like this is Zeppelin doing a reggae song, like Jamaica, and stuff. And it's like it's impossible to replicate. They're just the draw of their gravity is so strong. They could do, you know what I mean? It's like they could. It's a reference point. Whereas you can't make a Beatles song, you can't make a Led Zeppelin song without that. It's kind of
Wouldn't you say there's an A&R? Like, okay, so how about this? Is AI? So AI can kind of like supplement a musician or supplement an artist or something like that. You can kind of do that, but like, do you think that's almost just acting as like an A&R? Because like if you're making like normie pop music, there's still an A&R saying, can you make a Diana Ross song for me, please? So we can sell it. Like, do you guys think it's that? I'm being devil's advocate. I obviously think it is worse, but like,
I think this is a good opportunity, right? Because like this, I can clarify something as well about my perspective as well, because there has always been the what is automated by AI is something that humans have always been doing within art. So there is always like a dimension of art that you can like of any creative process that you can extract and automate, Yeah. So I'm not like denying that either. And there's like a sense in which, you could say that like the record industry or like an A&R guy making specific demands, he is like in a way playing a creative role. He is like feeding inputs into the like like the metaphorical AI, which is like, I don't know, like back in the day, Tin Pan Alley or like Stax Records or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And those people are like producing something. So like, I'm not saying that there's not. That's basically acknowledging that there's just like a material dimension to art, and obviously there is, But the thing is, like, art is always like an interaction, a kind of two-way interaction with like material, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always been that unconscious element to it, right? But
Wow, yeah.
it's like when all of human intention is like subsumed or like placed under just that like pure kind of mechanical unconscious process, and we have like, you know, machines that are like generating like generating art in the way that like you know, nature generates plants or something like that, right? Like at that point, what's happening is that there is like an artifice going on that, I mean, this is where I begin to sound like a kind of like crazy Christian conspiracy theorist, but
Wouldn't
like,
want to do that here.
but that's like,
Yeah.
you know, we're in like, that's like a kind of deist, you know, like Gnostic, like I can't remember what the term is now for like the, you know, the like Gnostic world, but it's like you're in like a false reality, you know, you're inhabiting like a false nature that actually has some occulted human intention lurking somewhere beneath the veil, and you're like alienated from having access to that.